First off, I'd like to welcome everybody to the May 19th, 2021 Little Miami Joint Fire and Rescue District Board of Trustees meeting. Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Lamar,
Present.
Mr. Lancer,
Present.
Mr. Shelton,
Present.
Mr. Van Harn.
Present.
It is noted that Mr. Hudson and Ms. Taylor are absent.
In your packets, everyone should have received a copy of the minutes from the April 21st, 2021 Board of Trustees meetings. I have already told Mrs. Taylor about a couple corrections, and if there's any more corrections, deletions, or additions that we need to know about.
I will note that I also was contacted. So throughout the minutes, and this will be corrected, I unfortunately misspelled Alma Kadick's last name. So it was a C-A instead of a C-O that I put in the minutes. So that will be corrected. I apologize for that. And then on page 2, in the third paragraph, so I misheard how the match of the grant worked. There are some ranges denoting whether you needed a 5% match, whatever it was. And I put that it was based on a range of dollars, and it's actually based on a range of the entity's population. So I completely misheard that, and that will be corrected as well. So the match amounts and percentages on that were correct. It's just that I listed it in dollars instead of population. So.
Do we have any other corrections, deletions, or additions? This time I need a motion to approve the minutes from the April Board of Trustees meeting.
Motion.
You have a second?
I'll second.
It's been motioned and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes from the April 21st Trustees meeting has been approved. Do we have any communications?
We do not have any this month.
On to the clerk's report.
Okay, the April reports were included in the board packets. A note that at the end of the month on April 30th, the cash balance of the district was $1,180,444.60. In the month of April, we received the balance of our levy funds from Hamilton County. We also received the state of Ohio rollback amount that's related to or part of the levy funds, but it's the rollback that we get from the state. And that was received in the amount of $88,353 divided. It's posted and divided amongst both the general fund and the special revenue fund. The Columbia contract payments received through April, $135,150 was the amount received for that. And then we got in our normal collections. We get every month like EMS reimbursements and some other income. On expenses, year to date, again, averaging it out through the month, year to date expenses percentage wise would normally be around 33 to 34%. Again, several funds that are over that 33% are ones because they have the upfront expenses earlier in the year, and we've discussed those the last couple of months. I wanted to point out two of them though. One, building maintenance, it's running about 5% higher than if it would be based on the average, mostly because in the last couple of months we've had a plumbing repair and some overhead door repairs that were not expected. So hopefully that fund will even out. But I do want to point out the EMS supply fund, and that one will correct itself. I learned today that fund, which is showing a year-to-date expense at 61%, which is quite high. We were overcharged from Bethesda North Apothecary, their pharmacy, for a particular item that I guess was ordered by a piece, but they put on the bill by the case. And this apparently happened to several departments, and it was since caught. And so it was applied to more than one invoice, but resulting in an overcharge of about $3,600. So I actually spoke today to Bethesda North, and up to the board. I'm fine with it either way, but wanted to get some direction from the board. They can either cut us a check back for that amount, or, and I spoke to Captain Lett, who is the person in charge of EMS supplies. By year end, we'll definitely spend that plus more, probably with Bethesda North. So they could carry a credit that could be applied to future purchases this year. So it could be done either way. We would still get the invoice. I would just see the credit coming off, each month. But I told the person at Bethesda North I would check with the board to see what you preferred, and then I'd give her a call tomorrow. So you can let me know that in a minute. But when I, make that correction, I've had the EMS supply account is realistically running more at about 39%, still a little tinge higher, but that should hopefully even out. But that is the reason why it's showing such a high percentage right now, and that correction will be made. Other than that, under new business, there is a supplemental appropriation, but that really is just fixing or correcting the books, because I neglected when I was doing the appropriations this year to separate out the auditor and treasurer fees. They should be posted to both partially the general fund and the ambulance EMS fund. And for whatever reason, I appropriated everything to the general fund. So I wanted to take $5,000 out of the general fund, put it into the ambulance fund so that I could cover the amount of auditor and treasurer fees that's charged to that one levy that we earmark towards that fund, if that makes sense. So everything remains the same. The total appropriation for the year does not change. It is still $3,145,000 odd dollars. Again, I'm just taking $5,000 from the general fund, putting it into the special revenue fund where it should have been from the beginning. But once that resolution comes up under new business, feel free to ask any questions. So going back to the question about the EMS supplies, does anyone have any particular feeling about the credit or check back from Bethesda North for the overcharge?
You said that we would probably spend that money throughout the year. I mean, there wouldn't be no balance left at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's what yes, that's what Captain Lett indicated, that, we would probably more than spend that on.
We just leave it in there as a credit then. And so anybody else on the board, your opinions on it?
Just ask Ms. Cameron, do you have a preference since you're?
No, I don't. Accounting wise, like I said, I can track it. Accounting wise, I can, have it, the paper trail, show the audit, all that kind of stuff. So either way, either way, it's fine. I mean, I don't have a preference. So, but again, if the board said, no, we want to get that money back, so we want to show right away that, it'll be a receipt back in, it'll be recorded as receipt, already posted to, so I guess I could post it to a credit to that line out. I'm not sure, again, that year-to-date percentage will even out at some point, but yeah, accounting wise to me, it doesn't make a difference.
I guess either way for me, I'll go with what you would think, Ms. Cameron. But I know for me, accounting is one thing, tracking as you go, but someday when you look back,
Right.
sometimes it might be really confusing if we let them keep the credit and work it out. I think from an accountant, it might be easier if you're thinking in the future to look back and say, oh,
true, good
got
point.
a check,
Yeah.
we put it right back in, and then it works out too.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I would think to get the money now is looking out to the future, trying to explain it some other day, and if you're not there that day or something, it might be complicated. So
Okay. Yep. No, so noted. Yeah. I'll discuss that with, internally too. I may even look at the accounting system more to say, tracking wise, what's going to make the most sense. But if the board had an opinion strongly either way, then obviously I'd go with that. But if not, then I'll just make sure I track what would be the best way to make sure there's a paper trail that can be tracked appropriately accounting wise. So, okay. All right. That's all I had. Thank you.
Are there any questions from Mrs. Cameron? Okay, thank you.
what was there a second item? It was first the check and then a second thing you mentioned about accounting, or
The check or the credit or the supplemental appropriation that's going to be under new business.
Do we have to do a motion on that? And
Yeah, that'll come up under new business, and I'll read the heading of that. And yes.
Okay, sorry, gotcha.
No problem.
On to old business, turnout gear. Do we have any discussions on turnout gear that we had continuing from last month's meeting?
Yeah, first of all, I think due to my health issues the last couple of weeks, some things have gotten kind of foggy. So I don't remember if I mentioned or thanked Mr. Shelton. He did sign off on the grant for the radios, right? That one's in process.
That's done, yes.
So I appreciate that. Regarding the turnout gear, because of my own health issues and also Ms. Caddick, I talked to her. She had a really adverse reaction to the second vaccine, and she was out for a good period of time too. So everything kind of stalled, and as a result, not much had been done the last couple of weeks, and so I did talk to her and got confirmation that they're willing to move the deadline again for the discount because of the health issues and hers too. She sent me an email confirming it today that they can do it till next Friday, and they'll still have time to be in the first bank of applications. Secondly, thank you, Chief Timmers. We did collect for Station 47 on a spreadsheet, basically a list of gear and their ages and basically all the stuff. And Mr. Timmers was able to get one from Station 66 also. So at least we have a baseline of information that we can work from. And I was going to send this out. Sorry, I'm a little off with all my stuff going on. But Alma did do a cursory review of it. And she said that looking over the list, anything that is from 2011 and prior is the 10 years mark and eligible for replacement. It looks like there are around 35 sets that are in this category and are from 2005 through 2011. Another critical point is that a lot of these sets are not complete sets, but rather a mixture of older and newer pieces. For example, the helmet's from 2014, but the coats and pants are from 2006, yet the boots are from 2004, which this could lead to NFPA standard compliance issues. Let's see, she said that the Firehouse Subs grant obviously is only up to 50,000. So she said, let's select the oldest mismatch units, the ones that manufacture dates for helmets, pants, coats, and boots. And my suggestion is to replace all the ones manufactured dates of 2005 to 2009. So there's definitely some gear that is certainly in the range to start replacing. And she and I are going to focus on that. And our goal is by next Monday or Tuesday to really have it nailed down with pictures and information. And I can finally get my head around it now that I'm back on my feet. And we'll have something to submit to Mr. Carson and Mr. Timmers by next Friday to hopefully sign off on it. So we're in good shape for that.
Chief, do you have comments on it?
Yeah, the older stuff that was the 2003 and I believe 2006. My question is why Gulf Manor didn't do anything to replace that gear before they came onto the district.
Is this so we get everybody understand where it's going? So the stuff that we're talking about 2003 and 2006, is that in use right now?
Yeah, I did confirm that all this gear is active gear. None of it is what's considered in storage. Secondly, some of this gear follows the firefighters, correct? So to think about that it was always here years ago, first of all, I wasn't here. And secondly, there's no way to know if some of the gear that was in compliance has gone with other firefighters that they've been transferred. So, and I can't speak to how things were back then. I don't have any.
Yeah, well, and I understand that, Mr. Van Horn, but the thing of it is that the gear doesn't travel with the individual.
Okay.
Once again, as I stated before, this gear is measured for that individual. So, I mean, because some things are mismatched or whatever, that's the way that, things were. That's kind of what it worked for us. I say us at Fairfax Madison Place before we we became Little Miami.
So you're saying
So-
that every new employee that comes in gets a new set of gear?
No,
Where do they get their gear from then? It's handed to them,
they get
correct?
it from the extra stuff.
Right.
They're not everybody is measured for new gear when they come on.
Yeah, so that's easy to see how the gear can get kind of mismatched or transferred or just shuffled over.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, you know, to do that, I mean, you're looking at right now for what we're talking about. You're looking at about $3,300 worth of fire gear that we need to buy for each individual that comes on this department. Then,
Well, actually, that's not what we agreed on. Is the grant's only up for 50,000. So we
Well, I
can. So her
understand that.
suggestion is just to focus on the mismatched gear that's way out of date first, up to $50,000 worth, and then go from there. I mean, this would begin our cycle of gear. If we do this every year, if we actually put in policy that we're going to be applying for grants on a regular basis, that begins the cycle of getting our gear up to date and protecting our personnel.
yeah. And do we know when this grant application starts?
I'm going on memory, but first of all, I know the deadline for us is next Friday now to actually apply for it and get the discount on it. And then I have to look back through the notes to see when the first due date, but isn't it like a quarterly application? So we can do it.
I just talked to Alma the other day about the grant for the radios. That doesn't open up until September.
Okay. But it does pay in 1 to 2 months. So
No, after they do the application, it takes 4 to 5 months to find out if you even get the
you're right.
grant.
I got them switched again. The turnout gear is 1 to 2 months from.
Well, I just talked to a chief today at a chief's meeting, and it took him 8 months to get new gear. And that was for St. Bernard.
Okay.
Was that for the FEMA grant or was that for the firehouse grant?
I don't know if that was out of their own budget, Jenny, or if that was a grant.
It's actually in the minutes from last meeting. I'll find it where she says it's a 1 to 2 months pay. I think it was in response to a question from Mr. Avis. I will find it.
Okay. Well, from what I was told today is that they're so far behind on getting the gear out and having it even right. They've got several sets that aren't even some of the stuff it's not even sewn right. So,
Chief, still my question is that the equipment that we are wearing right now, the guys that are on the department, the
Yes.
equipment that we have, is it within the standards of, and I'm going to go by what she said, is that it's a 10-year cutoff date usually, but in today's world, it goes up to 15 years with the conditioning of the equipment that we have.
Well, if I may interrupt, really that all this discussion isn't really what it's about. We've already approved the motion to fund the grant.
Not for the gear, we did not. The only thing we approved was the grant for the radios. This was going to be under discussion until the chief got back with us on the equipment and everything else. So we have not approved any.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
well, in my opinion, I think that we need to concentrate on the radios and the gear. I mean, as I stated before, if we want to put money aside for the next year to get at least 3 to 5 sets of gear, then that's what we should do. And that's my personal opinion. So
help me understand, if we can get $50,000 worth of equipment for minor investment on our part, I don't understand how that doesn't help the district and our personnel if we just decide to do that.
One thing again, Mr. Van Horn, is that who are you going to give this gear to? Because we don't even know the future of what the district's going to be. And
I don't I really don't even care. This is
Well-
about helping our personnel be safe and serve our residents. It really doesn't matter to me. This is really about doing the right thing beyond any kind of division of wares. That's not even an issue for me.
Well, I think the situation we're in right now, there's going to be a lot of discussion on the if we do, if we don't. And really, we've only got 4 members here right now. I think this should be a decision for the whole board to make. And since 2 of them are missing as of right now, we might want to put this off until next month, even though we are going to miss the deadline. I understand that, but I think it needs to be a decision made by the whole board. Something else that the chief had brought up is that with the radios that we are getting, we are going to get 8 radios on this grant that we just approved. With that being said, the chief's saying that we are probably going to need at least 10 more for the chase cars. And that does not include the mics, the charging station. So with that being said, our bill, after we get the radios that we've got for grant, is going to be about another $25,000. So the question is, do we want to spend more money right now, knowing that next year we're going to have to spend another 25 on the equipment that we need for the radios? And I know it's only $2,000, but I think it's a decision that the whole board needs to be involved in. And unless somebody else has anything else to say about it, I mean, that's my feeling about it, is that we need the whole board's decision on this.
Well, that's well and fair. I appreciate the comment on that. But under Robert's Rules of Order, we have a quorum here and we're able to vote. And so that's a good recommendation. So I'd still like to make the motion that we continue with this grant and this activity that we have with Alma to really get brass tacks on what we would order with this and get it in by the deadline.
Right.
And then we can decide that, because I think it can come back up again. We'll just have to pay more for the grant. But I'd still, this is important to me, obviously. I think it's important. No disrespect intended, but I've obviously put a lot of time into it and care about these people. And personally,
Mr. Van Horn, I don't think there's a member of this board that doesn't care about the employees. We are going to do the best we can to make sure they are safe. So, I mean, everybody here cares about what happens with the employees of the fire district.
yeah, I'd still like to renew my motion, if anybody will second it, to take
We have a
vote on moving
motion.
this forward.
I'll second it.
So
I know on the board, but I just want to ask a question for clarification. This is the firehouse grant again. I just want to make sure I have my meeting minutes correct. This is a grant up to $50,000, no match. Is that correct, Mr. Van Horn? So it's $50,000, unlike the FEMA grant, which there was the matching requirement. So there's no match on that. So the cost to apply for the Firehouse Foundation grant, if I'm saying it right, for PPE, is the cost of putting in the grant application, having LexiPol do that, which is $2,000. Normally, I know that if there was a deadline met, there was a discount. So that's what we're talking about, correct? I just want to make sure that's noted
Yes.
correctly.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is being recommended by Ms. Kotick is, since it's $50,000, do an ask or a request for that amount and for whatever equipment that amount would cover. Is that correct? Or is there a certain number of sets that she's looking at, or whatever, however many sets $50,000 would buy? Is that what the ask would be for the full?
Yeah, we're in process to look at all the gear, pick out what is the most most needed to replace, in our opinion, or her opinion, and excuse me, which also plays into how to the chance of winning the grant. That is, if it's the equipment that's in the worst shape, or whatever you want to describe it as, or most out of compliance, that's going to raise the chance of the grant being approved also. So that's the first thing. This and this would be I'm looking at the minutes. AF Green has a tiered match requirement, so that's correct. It's 5% match. I don't know what our population that we would report is, so that's something I don't know, but it's based on that population.
Oh, wait. So there is a match required? I'm confusing myself again.
Well, it's the AFG grant, correct, for PPE?
I thought I'm confused now. So I'm so sorry. So I thought the AFG grant was one we did for the radios. That's the FEMA one. I thought our foundation grant was for PPE. Or do I have that backwards?
All right, I got to back up here. In the minutes here, it says the AFG grant has a tiered match. So did we get that wrong?
Correct, and that's what it says. Radios seem to be most critical pathway. So she suggests the AFG grant. So let's make sure I even did the minutes right now, because now I'm really confusing myself.
Okay, there is no match required for the Firehouse
Foundation grant.
Foundation grant is what is the following statement. So
let me see.
so now that's
According to the minutes, Jenny, on the second paragraph on the second page, it says, Mrs. Caddick suggests that radios seem to be more critical
Right.
pathway and the replacements of all radios are needed. So she suggests the AFG. So I take that to mean that the AFG is for the radios.
Correct. So the other grant, Firehouse Foundation, would be for the turnout gear, and that's one that does not have a match. So again, the only cost to the district would be for putting in the grant application itself, for the grant writing services. And that's the case. That's what I want to make sure I had clear in the minutes. And now that's the case, what that cost is versus, if there was no grant and the district had to purchase a set or two on their own next year for whatever reason, that will be more than the cost of the grant writing services. I just wanted to again be clear that there was no match to this. So again, I understood it correctly and I had it in the minutes right. So I think that.
And also, if we do win this grant, we will get a $1,500 refund on it also.
No, the 1,500 comes from the FEMA grant. The radio.
I'm sorry, you're right. My apologies.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So
$2,000.
So it sounds like the question is, you go for this grant, the second grant, and the cost is the grant writing services. Unless I'm missing something. So.
You're correct, Jennifer. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, so the question is, we have a motion, we have second. Do we have any more discussion on this?
Just the last thing is I meant no disrespect about everybody caring about our personnel. It was purely a statement of my own motivation about this. And with my recent heart event, this has become even more thoughtful to me in the last month. That's where it comes from. I meant no disrespect.
Before voting, can we just summarize again how much money it will cost us, how many sets of equipment this will be?
I would estimate it's a 50,000, right? Total. It's the most we could go for. So we are probably looking at 10 to 12 turnout. I think, Chief, didn't you say it's like $3,200 for a complete set? And that's with the helmets, boots, and everything?
Yes.
So that'll be 15 sets.
What's that?
15 sets, if my
15
math,
sets.
my Oak Hills math is correct.
Okay.
And who will determine? Will that be Chief Timmers that will determine where these sets go, which station, which firefighters?
Well, I think that probably the full-timers for sure, not knowing where we're going to be standing in the future, but the full-timers for sure would be entitled to the newer equipment. It would be the chief's choice naturally, but that would be where, since they are not guaranteed employees, but they're the main employees we have right now. And then the part-timers would get the, if we don't know how long or anything with the part-timers on what, what their length of service would be.
Okay. And
Obviously,
way we could
they would
fit them.
have,
We
they
could
would
fit
have-
them to the new employees if we go that route.
there
thank
would have to be
you.
some consideration for the fact that we're actually paying attention to certain gear that needs to be replaced also. So whatever that balance is, it might be a mixture of both, but I'd feel awkward applying for a helmet that's 15 years old and then not replacing it and giving it to somebody else. Whatever that balance is, I can't answer that, but I'd be nervous about just forgetting about how we are applying for this.
And the last question, do we have any rough estimate on when this grant would be awarded and when we'd receive the equipment? Would it be this year is really?
Chief?
I really don't think it'll be this year.
I don't know about anything about the grant, but I believe at the minutes of that one, or Ms. Kotick said that the determination of the award was in a month or two, possibly. But then, and then I'm assuming, does that mean that the funds are available then? There might be a grant agreement, something the board would have to pass, accepting the grant kind of thing. So that might take another month when it comes, but I know nothing about the equipment itself, where you get it from, if they come in and measure people, how long it takes to order, how long it takes to come in. I don't know that. And it doesn't sound like Chief Timbers knows exactly either. Just again, I guess another department that must have, whether they paying it for themselves or whether they got a grant, whoever they ordered it from. And again, I'm assuming there's more than one company, but they've been waiting for a while, but I don't know how many sets they ordered either. So I'm not sure if anybody else has anything more specific, better answer than that, but that's all I can glean from it.
It's not a big deal. And I do have one more question. I feel like there was some discussion around if we apply for more than one grant, would that limit our probability of winning
Yeah,
a different
I think
grant?
that, Mr. Lamar, I think that discussion was applying for multiple grants from a single funding source.
Okay,
Would
right.
reduce your opportunity to get anything funded. It's my understanding, and again, I could be wrong, but it's my understanding that these are two separate funding sources. And
Yes.
if we choose to go pursue both funding sources, doing so won't prevent or won't inhibit our opportunity to get both of them funded.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I did find a reference, said oh yeah, right, that's correct. It is awarded 1 to 2 months of application, but there's no indication of the funds itself. That's right. Sorry, I was trying to find it, but I couldn't remember which one it referred to. I didn't want to step on my own toes again. So.
Okay, at this time, we have a motion and we have a second. I guess we need to do a roll call of the sitting members.
Yes, I will do that. Bear with me for a second. Okay, we've got here Mr. Lamar,
Yes.
Mr. Lancer,
Yes.
Mr. Shelton,
No.
Mr. Van Harn.
Yes.
That's a 3-1 vote. It's not a quorum. It's not the majority vote because it has to be majority of the board. So at this time, it goes down.
Actually, that's not
Is
correct.
that accurate? I don't think that that's accurate.
It's
Mr. Davis, can you-
a quorum is what determines being able
Mr.
to have
Avis,
a pub.
Would you like to jump in on this?
It has to be have
Yeah,
a quorum to have a
so-
public meeting, and then if
Can everybody
the
hear me?
quorum's there, then it's adequate for a vote to be
Well,
taken.
Mr. Avis is on the phone.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so there are some kinds of votes that require a majority of the legislative body, regardless of whether a quorum is present, to do other business. And there are some kinds of votes that only require a majority of a quorum. And typically, the revised code specifies what kind of votes require a majority of the legislative body as opposed to a majority of a quorum. I don't think, and I know Carson and I discussed this a little bit ahead of time, but we kind of ran out of time. So I don't think that the revised code addresses this kind of vote. I mean, this is a motion to apply for a grant. The amount of money at stake is a couple $1,000s. I mean, this is the kind of money that would be within the authority of the chief, for example, to spend without needing to get formal approval from the board. So I know, Carson, this might run a little counter to what we discussed before as I was thinking through, but I think the right answer is that on this kind of vote, a majority of a quorum can move forward, whereas other kinds of appropriations or other kinds of acts that are specifically referred to in the revised code as requiring a majority of the board would require that regardless of a quorum. So I think on a 3-to-1 vote, it can go forward.
Okay, that's fine. So we have a 3 yes, 1 no vote, and quorum wins, and this will move on. So are you going to be talking to her in the future, Roger?
Yeah, I talked to her a little bit before the meeting, and she said we're going to try to get together tomorrow morning to really nail down exactly the equipment that she wants, pictures and descriptions to help write the grant and make it successful. So if that happens, I'll be in touch with Mr. Timmers and whatever. We'll just keep.
She'll have to send a contract to me to be signed and everything. So.
Yeah, I think you may have been. Was that auto doc sign sent to you already?
It was today.
No, I thought it was sent maybe with the other one. Anyway, well,
we had the one already. That yes, that one I have signed, and she did send one before, but we kind of put that on hold. We didn't do anything. So if I can use the same contract, then that's fine. I've still got that.
Well, let me check with her. I'll talk to her about that when I talk to her to see if she needs to send us a different one. So
yeah, if she needs to send a different one, or if I can just use the same one, that's fine too. I've got it. So we can get that done.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Any other discussions on this? Okay. On to new business. Resolution R3.
Okay. Alrighty here. 1 second. Okay. Resolution 3 is to provide for the current expenditures and other expenses of the Little Miami Joint Fire and Rescue District during the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2021 by transferring funds from the general fund auditor and treasurer fees to the ambulance and emergency services fund auditor and treasurer fees. And I have declaring an emergency, but I actually think that doesn't even need to be on the resolution. So I'll fix that. Again, this is really just a bookkeeping resolution where I want to take $5,000 from the general fund, put it in the special revenue fund or the ambulance fund in order to account for the auditor and treasurer fees that is posted to each fund that we are charged after we receive our levy funds twice a year. So again, doesn't change anything as far as total fund balances or I should say the total amount we have appropriated for the year. It's just moving a little bit of money from one fund to the other. But let me know if you have any questions.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay. This time I'm open for a motion to approve or adopt resolution R3 2021.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Lamar,
Yes.
Mr. Lancer,
Yes.
Mr. Shelton,
Yes.
Mr. Van Harn.
Yes.
Okay. Resolution R3 2021 has been adopted. Discussions about future meetings. Everybody knows that the governor has lifted as of June 2nd mandates for masks. We have been doing the Zoom meeting for last year or so. Question is, do we want to continue with the Zoom meetings or do we want to go live? So it makes no difference to me one way or the other. I just bring it up to the board to see how and what your feelings are.
Can I ask a quick question? Who from the public typically attends in person, if anyone? Is any of the firefighters or any public members typically attend?
It really depends on what we're discussing. You know, sometimes we have some people out there, other times we have nobody. So it really depends.
Mr. Shelton, is there an opportunity to do a hybrid model where we do still stream the meetings and we move for us into a in-person meeting setting?
Mrs. Cameron, do you want to answer that? I'm not for sure.
I'm sure ICRC has that capability for sure. So, I mean, that can be inquired with them, you know, whether it's decided to host the meeting where the board gets together in person or anybody can attend in one place. I don't know if that would move back and forth, you know, and that can be decided. But then again, to stream the meeting so those that may not be able to physically attend can still watch it. I know that is a thing that can be done. I believe our CRC can even do it. So I can inquire with Mr. Newman more on that, and maybe even after this meeting, I can even chat a little bit with Keith or someone. But yes, I'm sure that can be accommodated somehow if that is the desired, you know, outcome. So
I think I would be in favor of that, just because I think that it provides both a hybrid model provides an opportunity for as many people to be involved as possible from the public and the staff and us, of course. And there's times when I know that, you know, myself or any of the other members can't attend physically, but that option to enter in remotely still, I see a lot of benefits to a hybrid model, I guess is what I'm saying. And if that's possible, that would be
Yeah, we still may be, if we remember at the front end, there were meetings where I know first I thought I may be COVID positive. I couldn't attend, but I was able to do it. It was a hybrid back then. Now we're kind of getting the tail end where some of the things still may come into play that we have to be careful with and make that available. But I'm with you on that.
Well, let me add one thing for clarification. So right now, the statute authorizes any public body in Ohio to hold meetings remotely through the end of June.
right.
So in the budget right now, there is a provision, and I haven't seen an update on this in about a week, so I don't know if anything's happened since then, but there was a provision that would extend that until the end of December.
Okay.
There's also an independent bill that has been introduced in the House that would, I think, allow that permanently, but it looks like it's mostly sponsored by Democrats, which the way our House is right now, that means it's not as likely to pass.
Right.
But if the General Assembly adopts that extension through the end of December, then we would have the option to do whatever we want, including allowing some members to attend remotely and others to attend in person. But if that doesn't get extended, we would not have that option. If we go back to the old system, then in order for a member to attend, they would have to attend in person. Now, we could still stream the meeting so the public can watch it, but a member couldn't attend remotely. So it's going to be kind of one or the other. So I think the immediate decision is, do you want to meet in person in June, knowing that you have one more month where you can meet remotely? And then if that gets extended to December, do you still want to meet remotely or have a hybrid model go at any point up through the end of the year? So that's really, I think, the question at this point.
Okay. Mr. Avis, is there a notice requirement? So if we were to switch back to in-person meetings, do we have to give like a 30-day notice to the public that we are going to make that switch?
You just have to post your meetings in the normal course, and the notice has to advise of the time and place of the meeting. So as long as we post our meetings in accordance with law, we just have to put in there where the meeting is going to be, so people will see whether it's in person or by Zoom.
And if we switch to a hybrid model where the meetings are streamed, would the public have the ability to interact within the meeting remotely? Or is it either all, if you want to interact and have public comment, it's either all or nothing. Either you should, if we meet in public, in person, I guess I should say, in order to address us and participate, you have to be in person, or?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure if that's been addressed. I would think for a member of the public, it's probably up to the public body to determine whether it wants to allow someone to participate remotely if they're just a member of the public as opposed to a member of the body. If we had to do something like a public hearing, I don't think we could do that remotely. I think anybody who wanted to speak would have to be in person, but we don't really have those on the fire district board that I can recall. So, we can take a look. There may be something even in the AG's Sunshine Manual that addresses a call-in kind of question. But my initial thought is, yeah, if you want somebody from the public to speak, you could probably have them speak remotely. But that's probably up to the board.
Okay. Any other questions?
Conceptually, I'm in favor of moving to a hybrid model where we meet in person. I do like the convenience of online, but I also understand that online can be a barrier. Meeting online can be a barrier to participation from the public. And I guess the question I have is, at what point do we go back? And anyway, I'm in favor of a hybrid model.
Would it be easier, at least for tonight, to say we'll do one more Zoom meeting and then we'll address this in the meantime, moving toward a hybrid or potentially the hybrid?
We can do that, yeah. Well, right now we had it set up to go to the end of June anyhow. So yeah, we can do just stay like we are until the end of June. And by that time, we'll know where the bills have gone, if they're going to extend it or whatever. So
I
think that
yeah.
makes sense.
Okay.
We'll have a lot more clarity by the end of June than we have today.
Right. So why don't we go ahead and stay the way we are right now for June, and then we'll make a decision in June about moving forward.
Okay.
In the meantime, Ms. Cameron, maybe you can check on what the hybrid would look like, assuming that the statutes and all that can line up.
Yeah, I like the technologically or however that would, I can check with ICRC, assuming that, again, we would follow whatever by laws allow. But yes, I'll make some inquiries with them and see what they have available.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
I have a couple things, just questions. I don't know if new business is the way to go, assuming we're finished with the meetings discussion.
We can do that on the board of trustees and
Okay.
get the chief's report done.
Sure.
Chief?
Okay. As of last week, we hired 3 new EMTs. 2 of them have already started. One has to finish up his paperwork before he gets started. But we have 3 new employees. I spoke with our Haran rep. They are proposing that we go to Anthem. With this plan, though, we have to join a Chamber of Commerce. So I spoke to Ms. Taylor because we talked about something else, and she suggested that we join Blue Ash Chamber of Commerce. So I can move forward with that, or if there's any other discussion on that.
Chief, is this policy similar to what we have now?
Correct.
What is the cost of that policy?
The cost is $174,867.
Is that an annual?
That is,
That's what it
yes,
would.
that's the annual. That's the annual. Yep.
So basically what this means then, Mr. Timmers, is there's a sort of a group association based on the chamber that has a insurance benefit around it, and we're going to join that. Is that correct?
Correct, Mr. Van Horn.
Okay.
It's a lot better than a 30% increase.
What is the
What
increase?
is the
Terry?
increase?
Chief
Yes.
Timmer?
What is it?
We were with the renewal. It was going to be 232,076. So
Okay.
you're looking at about $54,000.
So what do we pay right now, Jen, on a whole year?
I don't have that in front of me.
Our currently we're paying 177,790.
We're going down
So
3,000?
it's going down.
Yeah, we're going down 3,000. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But
And
the plan, is the plan itself comparable? When I know it's a different company, but as far as co-pays and all, it's comparable?
Yes. Yes.
So technically we have the same plan. We're just switching to Anthem
Correct.
and going down $3,000.
Yes, sir.
I like that a lot better.
Yes. And then you have the runs totals in front of you. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them for you.
Chief Timmers, are we doing inspections currently? And if not, do you have an idea of when inspections will resume?
Yep, we are starting. Mr.
Okay,
Lance.
great.
Yep. We're starting that, and we're starting the spring hydrant checks too.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know it's been a while since they've happened. I guess COVID was the impetus to stop doing in-person inspections.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But we're getting back on it.
A neighborhood note that sometimes causes water to discolor. Is it fair to warn my residents if you guys are going to do? Or no?
That's mainly in the fall time, Mr. Van Horn. In the springtime, it's just mainly going around and making sure that everything's greased up and ready to go. And they still do check to make sure that there's no water in the barrel. But mainly in the fall time is when we do the flushing.
Okay, that's a different. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That's all I have.
Thanks, Chief. Now to Board of Trustees. Andy?
Yeah, so as part of our CBA working group, we've expanded the scope a little bit of that to examine, in addition to make a series of proposals to the CBA, we're also taking a look at our part-time pay as well as benefits. We intended to make a proposal and a recommendation this evening, but we just simply ran out of time. But we think that this is important for several reasons. One, we think that our part-timers, their compensation, just to be blunt about it, we're not compensating them competitively in the market. And what we're hoping to do in looking at the part-time compensation is to develop a recruitment and retaining strategy, particularly for part-time employees, where we get them in, we get them paid appropriately. Perhaps we offer a range of benefits unique to part-time employees, and we use that to develop a program to kind of build the bench for our full-time positions as they come open. So it's two parts: recruitment, and the second part is a retainment strategy. I think we're on track to have a recommendation to the board, hopefully by the next board meeting, on what those pay rates will be, and if any additional ancillary benefits that we think might position the Little Miami Joint Fire and Rescue District as a place of opportunity, particularly in the part-time field. So we will have that to you all, hopefully by the next board meeting. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
Good. I mean, yeah, this is something everybody's been discussing for years about our pay, and we are below minimal or below the average, and
Yeah,
we need to get it up to bring people in. And I think
Yeah,
once we get it up to where it needs to be, it's good incentive to keep people too. So
Exactly. We want to be a place of opportunity that we want to make the fire district as attractive as possible as a place of employment, given how competitive the field is for part-time firefighters.
Yeah.
So if there's something that we can do as a board to help build the ranks and build the bench for future career firefighters, that's what we want to do, and that's what we're looking at. We've surveyed, we've identified comparable fire departments in our region. We reached out to them through the help of CLG and the Center for Local Government to get those pay rates, and we're looking at that as well as, like I said, ancillary benefits. So hopefully we'll have a recommendation by the June meeting.
it sounds good. Thanks for doing that. So.
Yep.
Mr. Lancer, in my conversations with other firemen, I completely agree with everything you're saying. I'm just, you're saying we, I'm just curious, is that you and Mr. Van Harn, or is that?
It's CBA working group. So
Okay.
myself, Ms. Taylor, we asked Mr. Lemon to join in and provide his insight because he did a lot of the financial modeling.
Got it.
And then Chief Timmers as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Appreciate the work that you guys have done on that too.
Yeah. And we are still actively on the issue, the primary issue, which is a list of CBA recommendations. We've accumulated a wealth of recently executed CBAs from around the region. We're going through those essentially line by line, looking at best practices and trends. And again, we hope to have a series of recommendations for the board in that realm as well.
Okay. Alan, just a question on the CBA. That's coming up for negotiation. Don't we have to send out a letter in June stating that we intend to start negotiations shortly?
There is a provision in the CBA that addresses that. Let's talk offline about the mechanics of that, but certainly the local is aware that we're going to have these discussions and they want to have them too. So I don't think there's an issue, but we can talk about that offline.
Okay. All right. Any other Board of Trustees discussion?
I wanted to make a kind of a brief announcement, is that I think most of you are aware of this, but not everyone, is that the old Madison Place Firehouse, which is a few blocks from where I live, and I think Chief Timmers worked there, we're turning that into a community center, and that'll happen this summer. And we will have like an open house and welcome any of the former firemen to come take a tour. We're going to try to put some historical portion within that firehouse, and we understand the historical significance of it. It's a beautiful building. We have renderings we're happy to share with anyone of interest. We can give you a tour, and just want to invite the community we're still getting feedback from the community within Columbia Township and Marymount and Fairfax, but open to anyone that's listening that wants to see it or learn more.
Great.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Any other discussions? We're open for adjournment. Have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Good night.